In this video, we're going to be covering 5 watches that are on my buying radar. Welcome back to the Chisholm Hunter channel. My name is Harrison, as always. And today we're covering 5 watches that are on my buying list and have been on my buying list for about 6 months. Some of them are a bit more fresh than that. But before we start that video, if you could please do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button. Help a fellow watch nerd out. I'd really appreciate it. At number 1 or number 5, depending on which way you want to kind of flip it, was a watch that was released about 2 months ago from when we're talking today. And it is the Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch in white, coming in at 42mm. I feel like everyone in the industry, every watch collector has a Speedmaster in their collection. And I feel like it's something that I've not got yet that I would love to have. I mean, just the pure history that goes into the Speedmaster range is incredible. I mean, they were the first watch on the moon. There's a lawnmower going off, by the way. I'm not sure if you guys can hear it, but it's such a... As soon as I start filming, every time, without fail, one of the neighbors... It's just ridiculous. This watch, of course, comes in at 42mm, but the big change here is, of course, the fact that it has a white dial. Now, it also has sapphire crystal glass, and sapphire crystal is actually not what they used on the space missions. They used a glass, or kind of a... I guess kind of like a plastic called Hesselite. So this watch is a sapphire sandwich, meaning it has the sapphire crystal on both sides, and that means you can see directly into the movement of this watch. And the movement on this watch, the movement in Omegas in general, they're just powerhouses. They will last through the ages. They're COSC and METAS certified. The movement in this model is the Caliber 3861, which is a manual winding movement. So this isn't automatic. It doesn't have a rotor spinning round. It is manual wind. But there's something really beautiful about manual wind movements. It's a bit like having a manual car. You have more of a deep connection with that car because you need to constantly shift it and crank it through the gears. It's the same with manual watches. And in my collection at the moment, apart from my broken khaki Field, I do not have a manual wind watch. And I feel like it's a throwback to a lost age, and that's also partially why I'd like a manual movement. Now, this manual movement has a power reserve of 50 hours. So it's not huge, and I would expect a little bit more for a watch of this price point, but it's still pretty good. The lug-to-lug comes in at 47.5mm, and the thickness comes in at 13.2mm. But of course, guys, the huge change here, the change that everyone ranted and raved about was, of course, the fact that it is a white-dialed Speedmaster. And in my collection, I love white dials. I just have a thing for them. Always have, always will. This watch comes in at £7,600. So it's by no means cheap. It is quite expensive, and I'll have to save up for a good 20 years. And then maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to afford it. Before we go any further, guys, I just want to say a huge thank you on the Chisholm Hunter Journal side of things. You guys have been amazing with your support on these Chisholm Hunter journals, and it's something that I designed, and they sold out as soon as they hit the website. So we have had a restock, and we've got a lot more in, thankfully, so they are available now if you want to get them. But I just want to say a huge thank you. And if you are looking for your next watch, head to chisholmhunter.co.uk, where we're official stockists of Tudor, Omega, Vacheron Constantin, a ton of others. And you will be supporting the channel if you get it from us, and I'd really appreciate that. The next watch coming in at number 2 is definitely a lot more affordable, and it's from a brand that have released so many bangers recently that you almost can't keep up. It is the Longines Conquest GMT. Now, you do get a 41mm variant, and you also get a 43mm variant. I would suggest for my wrists, which are 6.5 inches, and also your wrists, if they're around about that, is to go for the 41mm variant. It wears wonderfully on the wrist. Within this range, you do have a ton of options and variations, and Longines are great for giving variations. I mean, you do have the 41 or the 43mm variant, and then you have tons of different dial colors. I won't list them all because there's so many variants with the rubber straps and non-rubber straps and bracelets, but I'll pull them up on the screen at the moment. This model, of course, is a GMT model, and because it's a GMT model, it reads multiple time zones at the one time. Now, if you are an avid traveler and travel for work as much as I do, then that's actually really very, very useful. The amount of times I've been traveling, called home, and not realized that it's 2, 3, 4 in the morning and woken my parents up is not right. So a GMT model, it would help. This specific model comes in at 41mm, 12.9mm in thickness, and has a lug-to-lug of 49.5 4mm. It has scratch-resistant sapphire crystal glass with anti-reflective coating on both sides of the case. Yes, that's a positive and also a negative. I know I've covered this argument quite a few times, but I see it personally as a positive. I just feel that they've made so many upgrades from the previous Hydra Conquest, especially when it comes to the bracelet. Now, I wouldn't actually go for the bracelet version. I would go for the rubber strap because in my lifestyle, when I get bracelet watches, actually now is a prime example, this bracelet is bruised, it's battered, it's destroyed, and it kind of upsets me. And I like the fact that it has battle scars and that tells my story, but if it's a new watch, for some reason I have some sort of anxiety around that. I'd love to know what you guys think on that matter, but it's just the way that I feel. So I would go for the rubber strap, and the rubber strap actually brings the price down slightly as well. So it would come in at £2,650. And on that note, it's probably quite fitting that we do a wrist check. What is on your wrist today? Please let me know in the comments. It's a Chisholm Hunter tradition spanning back, would you believe it, 2.5 years now. I have the Tudor Black Bay ETA. It's an awesome model. And actually, it's quite funny. I've been losing weight recently, and you can see it sliding around my wrist so much more because I've lost a little bit of weight. Next on the list, coming in at number 3, is the Panerai Submersible Luna Rosa. As soon as I saw this at Watches and Wonders 2024, I was obsessed. I actually put it on the Chisholm Hunter Watches Instagram page. It's just so sexy. Let's talk about the specs. So this watch comes in at 42mm, and it does look and feel huge on the wrist. It is a big boy, and it's partially a big boy because of that really iconic crown that it has with the kind of safety latch that comes out. Everybody knows that that's iconic to Panerai, and it's very easily distinguishable as a Panerai model, which is partly why everybody loves them so much, because they are very clearly a Panerai. Now, because of the white dial and also the black bezel, it pops out that dial even more and makes it look even bigger. They do have a red stripe running down the grey strap, and that makes it just pop out that little bit more and look that little bit more established and well presented. Everything about this watch is big, it's bold, it's chunky, it's a statement. But I think that Panerai have made their name within that niche in the industry. You don't buy a small Panerai. You would go for a big Panerai, despite the fact that you might have smaller wrists like me, because it's a Panerai. This watch is water resistant to 300 meters and has a fully automatic movement. The movement in this watch is the caliber P900, and this has 23 joules, beats at a frequency of 28,800 VPH, and has a power reserve of 3 days. So one of the reasons that this is bigger, of course, is because it does have that power reserve, it does have that water resistance, and also it's a Panerai. At number 4, we have a Genta-inspired classic. I know, everyone is they're gonna kill me. I'm such a typical watch snob. I'm such a typical mainstream watch guy, but it's just me. I love this watch. It is the IWC Ingenieur coming in the beautiful aqua color. I was actually really disappointed this year at Watches and Wonders, not with IWC, because I thought what they brought out was incredible, but at the fact that they didn't bring out any more Ingenieur models. I think this has become the staple, the key in IWC's arsenal, and I just love it. There's so many complaints about the price, and I just don't get it. I've said this in other videos before, and I know a lot of people attacked me for it, but I honestly don't get it. Put it this way. If you buy a Gucci wallet, you know that it's just a wallet. It's gonna hold your cards and hold your cash like any other wallet. But it's the fact that it's Gucci that you buy it. And it's the fact that Gucci have invested hundreds of millions of pounds into branding that you want that Gucci wallet. And that's why it's more expensive. The IWC Ingenieur is kind of the same. I mean, when you think of Gerald Genta, the legend, the man himself that designed the AP, why wouldn't his designs fetch more when it comes to watches, when it comes to his designs in the watch market? I mean, it's like getting a painting, a work of art from somebody, and then they pass away very sadly. But what happens to that art after they pass away? It goes up in value. And the reason it goes up in value is because they're never going to make any more art again. This watch is art. And the reason that it's more expensive is because Gerald Genta isn't going to make any more art, unfortunately. This watch comes in at 40mm in diameter and 10.7mm in height. It wears beautifully on the wrist. I seriously loved it. And actually, I took it outdoors in Scotland and it suited the outdoors vibe pretty well. The date window is at the 3 o'clock mark and the dial is beautifully textured and has a ton of depth to it. Honestly, this dial, it's really hard to figure out what color aqua actually is. It's kind of like a turquoisey kind of green, but depending on the light, that changes. I was staring at this watch for a very long time and it was quite embarrassing. The caseback on this model is unfortunately closed. I would have liked to see an open caseback. I think that would have added an extra layer to this watch of love for me personally, but it does have a closed caseback. Now, the movement behind that closed caseback is the 32111 caliber. This is IWC's manufactured movement, and it's automatic with 120 hours of power. It also has 163 components and beats at 28,800 VPH. Okay, guys, we get to the last, I feel like I haven't breathed for most of this video. We get to the last watch on the list at number 5. And if I had to say, if the channel is lucky enough to get to the 100K mark with your guys' help, and by the way, I need to thank you guys for that because over the last couple of months, we've been gaining a lot more subscribers, and that's all thanks to you. And it's hard to understate the difference that you guys make by watching these videos, but you do make a huge difference. You've made a difference to my life, you made a difference to Chisholm Hunter, and I just need to say a huge thank you because of that. But my goal is to reach 100,000 subscribers. And if we do reach 100,000 subscribers, I think this is the watch that I would get. And I think I would engrave it with the Chisholm Hunter logo. I just feel that would be really sentimental and really amazing, and it would live with me forever. This is the Tudor Black Bay monochrome that was released at Watches and Wonders 2024. Some considered it boring, I considered it brilliant. This watch comes in at 41 millimeters in diameter and has a case thickness of 13.6 millimeters. It is waterproof up to 200 meters and obviously has a black monochrome dial. It's essentially black and white. There's no color to it, there's no pop to it. But because it's so understated, it's almost overstated. It's a weird oxymoron. The movement in this model is fully automatic and has 70 hours of power. This specific model has quite a few upgrades from my original, the Gen 1 of the Black Bay. So you can see that instead of having a snowflake second hand, it actually has a lollipop second hand. You can see that the tube between the crown and the bezel or the case of the watch has actually been taken away. So in previous versions, they were colored, but it's been squished down that little bit more and put more against the case of the Tudor. The crown itself is actually a little bit more angular, jaggy, and grippy, and the teeth on the bezel are a lot more aggressive rather than the really small, dainty teeth that you see on the bezel here. There's been tons of little watch nerdy upgrades, essentially, but I just love the vibe of this watch. I love the understated nature of this watch. I love what Tudor are doing, really. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I'm not saying that I will get these watches soon because I'm skint. I literally just bought the studio, to be honest, and a new flat, and that'll do me up until I'm about 60 years old, and then maybe I can have some more financial freedom. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please hit that subscribe button or follow our Instagram at Chisholm Hunter Watches, and I'll see you soon.